Hello and welcome to Colonial Outcast, the anti-imperialist podcast that both your conservative and liberal uncles will hate. Actually, for this particular episode, your conservative uncle will hate it less because we are not talking about them so much. We are talking about the Democratic National Convention, the only thing saving us all from fascism. So if you just randomly stumbled on this channel and you've made it to the weird left-wing corner of the internet. And I just want to assure you that that was sarcasm. The DNC is totally a blue MAGA fascist enterprise that serves the interests of capital, hates the working class and its own voters, funds the police to put down any actual left-wing political movements, and will totally join hands with the Christian right when it comes time to protect their wealth from any sort of redistribution. And they love war. So do the Republicans. They're just not all holier than thou about it. Anyways, I'm your host, Greg Stoker, the co-founder of this podcast endeavor. Mark Wayne is here with his head looking extra shiny today. Hi. Anyways, yes, I also invited Matt Lieb from Bad Hezbollah on to talk trash on the Democratic elites for this one, but he couldn't make it. Sucks to suck, Matt. But none of that matters because we are going to be doing the same thing, only better, with the inimitable I Am Blakeley, songwriter, content creator, rabid anti-Zionist, professional Michael Rappaport roaster, and political analyst. If you don't follow them yet, you should follow Blakeley, linked in the description. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited, dudes.
Yeah. Also, hi, Mark.
Hey, Greg. How you doing, bro?
What was that?
Did you take your Claritin today?
It's the new kitty. I actually forgot. Maybe that's why. I took Zyrtec, but not Claritin. So I'm still really stopped up. But anyways, before we get started, we're going to talk about this third way Democratic think tank position that they're going to take for the 2026 and 2028 elections, the third way comeback retreat that hasn't got enough headlines. It should have gotten way more headlines. Honestly, I think it should have gotten as many headlines as like Project 2025 got, not because this is threatening, but it's actually kind of threatening in its non-threateningness. Like there's nothing they're going to do to beat Republicans. But anyways, before we get started, I kind of wanted to bring up, why are you so pissed off today, Blakeley?
So today Trump put on his little fake social media site that he's going to be cracking down on the free speech rights of students, and not just the ones that he's threatening to deport, American citizens as well, saying that they're going to be arrested and expelled for protesting against the Israeli regime. And if you don't think that that's what it's about, then look at the tweet that Elise Stefanik, who is the alleged UN ambassador, which just means you're on the payroll of AIPAC and the Israeli lobby to do their bidding on the world stage, comes out and says, under Donald Trump, universities will be held accountable. Anti-Semitism, and then quiet part out loud, anti-Israel hate will not be tolerated. And that's the part that I really want to highlight, because this clown is actually admitting what this entire thing is about. This is not about protecting Jewish students, although even if it was, let's actually table that for a second.
Okay.
Even if this was about protesting Jewish students, which it's not, what happened to hating all the snowflakes? Are we going to now create more rules to protect trans protests? Are we going to do more? Remember when the conservatives said they hated safe spaces, and they said that they were against the safe spaces of Black and brown students who were calling certain things that were happening on campus unacceptable, trans students. So all those conservatives who cried and cried and cried and cried and called them safe spaces and said that we needed to protect free speech are now celebrating that certain Jewish lobbying organizations, okay, not even the students, are calling for safe spaces. And not just for the students, for the Israeli regime, okay, for the state of Israel. So in this country, you can spit on the flag, you can say,
Burn
fuck
the
America,
flag.
death to America, burn the flag, America fucking sucks, it should be destroyed, and, you know, all of that shit, which I am in favor of protecting that speech because I believe in our First Amendment. But these are the same clowns that are going to defend, you can say all those things, but you can't criticize Israel. So she's coming out and literally admitting this is about protecting Israel from criticism. And wouldn't you know, all the America First accounts are coming out to celebrate it. You've got the big bitch with the giant head and the small face, Charlie Kirk, coming out being like,
Yes.
Then you have fucking all of those op accounts that I'm convinced they're all ops. All those,
most of them are, yeah.
all those supposed MAGA accounts like the Gunther Eagleman or Defiantly Free Insurrection Barbie, and they're all these accounts that have these over-the-top patriotic names like American Lover Forever, 1968, Eagle, like the guy's name really is Eagleman, like Eagleman, like their name will be like America First, MAGA, Patriot 668 are all coming out in sync to say, yeah, this is great. Crackdown on America's First Amendment rights. Yeah, this is great. Arrest students if they criticize Israel.
Well,
Doesn't anyone else think that's weird?
It just really goes to show you that all conservatives really want at the end of the day is just to be able to say the N-word.
Yeah.
That's it.
100%.
Yeah.
It's the only freedom they care about.
Yeah.
100%.
Freedom.
I think you nailed it though when you're talking about how they're all ops. They really are, and it's a very good strategy to try and astroturf. I think that it worked at the beginning of this, but I've noticed that if you keep following these comments, you will notice a difference between obvious astroturf comments and then genuine grassroots comments. You will see a lot of conservatives like commenting like, look, I'm all about America first, but this is not it. This is not it. You will see these comments if you scroll far enough. So I think it's very important to educate, especially targeting conservative demographics on this topic, that look, when you go on Twitter and you see, like you said, some overly patriotic handle that's Eagle, American flag, and then you see a blatant pro-Israel comment really sucking up to Israel as if they were one of the 50 states. You got to understand that it's astroturfed. Israel literally has media companies. They pay marketing companies to go on with bots and make these comments, or they pay actual real people, get them on a payroll and put these comments. So I think it's good that you pointed that out.
Yeah. And I just think it's funny that it's always the very conveniently MAGA accounts that use so much American iconography and pretend that they're the most patriotic. Like, those are the ones that are, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of this hilarious sketch that comedian did. Oh, I forget her name. Kylie Brakerman. Are you guys familiar with Kylie Brakerman? She's a really funny comedian, and she did a sketch like making fun of these fake MAGA accounts and how they're totally fake. They're definitely a real person, like just going off and saying all the most insane shit. But all of these accounts in unison are all cheering the crackdown of Americans' free speech on behalf of Israel. And then you have all the real accounts that what's his name? Rafe Dubin and like all the other fake free speech advocates that made millions of dollars pretending to be like, I'm talking about the fucking hacks like Barry Weiss and fucking what's Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Eric Weinstein or Brett Weinstein or whatever the fuck the one's name is who talks really slow so we think he's smart. All these clowns made millions and millions of dollars calling themselves free speech absolutists during COVID and saying that they would fight for Americans' free speech, including the speech of Americans on college campuses. And all of these motherfuckers are online today being like, oh, you're going to arrest student protesters for protesting Israel based America first? ? Like,
I know the cognitive dissonance is real, but before we go on to our main segment about the Democrats, we just have to bring up personally, my favorite Zionist propaganda account, and you'll be familiar, Blakeley, with this guy, Vivid.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, isn't he Indian?
Yeah, Namaste, Vivid. Yeah, I think he's Punjabi. I think he's from like.
There are a large amount of accounts that are people in India, men who are in India that tweet from these accounts, these kind of anon accounts, which I don't really understand, like what the vibe, like why.
It's cost saving.
Just I lived in India for a minute, so there's a lot of Hindu fascists who connect
Very pro-Israel, very anti-Muslim,
very pro-Israel, and also very pro-Hitler too. Strangely, just Google the RSS in India, and you'll see they had their own sorts of brown shirts. But
dude, they're volunteering in the IDF to go kill Muslims in Gaza. That they're literally volunteering. They're begging to go into Gaza. Yeah. So I mean, it's a big part of the culture.
Yeah, but anyways, if you're listening to this, Vivid, namaste and fuck you. So, anyways, so what we are talking about today is the state of the Democratic Party and how much they love to lose. Now that we got our just so we seem like balanced left wingers, we just talked about what we could call the far right. Now we're going to talk about not even the left, the center right. So we're going to be talking about the Democratic Party and how much they love to lose. If y'all took a break from the news cycle over the weekend, you may have missed the story broken by Politico about this DNC operative retreat where a bunch of Democratic strategists gathered at an East Coast resort to talk about how to win midterms in 2026 and how to take the White House in 2028 by doing the exact same thing they've been doing since 2015 in the Hillary campaign. And I have a little footage from you just to remind you the entire premise of Hillary's campaign.
Broke up the big banks tomorrow, and I will, if they deserve it. If they pose a systemic risk, I will. Would that end racism? Would that end sexism? Would that end discrimination against the LGBT community? Would that make people feel more welcoming to immigrants overnight? Would that solve our problem with voting rights and Republicans who are trying to strip them away from people of color, the elderly, and the young? No. Would that give us a real shot at making sure that our political system works better because we get rid of gerrymandering and redistricting and all of the gimmicks that states use to give these Republicans safe seats so they can continue to tear down the progress we've made in America?
Hell yeah.
Wow. I can't believe she didn't win.
Yeah, it's like, I could regulate the banks, but would that stop racism? Like, why can't you do two things at once?
Like,
I just had to pull that clip up because it's stuck in my mind for the past, 8 years.
It's amazing. It's such an amazing clip. It really is. It really is a perfect distillation of the Democratic Party.
Mm.
It really is. I could help you. I could. But would that end racism?
No.
Would that stop the polar ice caps from melting? It's very typical. But why would they frame it so obvious that way though?
Well, actually back in 2016, I don't think people were thinking along the same terms we are now. There wasn't it wasn't so hard to live 8 years ago.
It's gotten worse every year.
Yeah, it just because there's this idea of elite capture where these corporatist elites and their pundits that shill for them have weaponized identity politics. So it's a perfect distillation because it's like, could I regulate these banks? But instead of doing that, we're going to talk about racism, things that cannot be solved by a politician or by the government. So.
And the things that can be solved by the politicians and the government that would actually have effects, downstream effects, to actually help fight racism and sexism. They're not interested in. They're not interested in doing things like regulating the banks to ensure that they're not discriminating against people or payday loans aren't preying on poor people and Black people. They're not interested in any of that. They say we want to focus on racism and sexism because they know that that's fucking amorphous. And they know that they don't actually have to confront. It's like they know that they don't actually have to do anything if they just say that. Oh, we're going to fight racism and sexism. Oh, really? Kind of like how all of you said during the Black Lives Matter protest that you were going to take it seriously and do something about police reform. And all you did was fund the police more and kneel in kente cloth. Like that, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Black Lives Matter, but we're going to fund the police because the Black Lives Matter actually scared us because we saw a mass civil uprising. So we need to fund the police more.
Yeah.
Instead of actually like listen to the people. So yeah, they're just doing more of the same thing. And y'all know about the Heritage Foundation, right? The Heritage Foundation, sometimes referred to as simply as Heritage, like if you're on the cool right wing side of things. It's an American conservative think tank based in Washington, D.C., founded in 1973. It took a leading role in the conservative movement in the 1980s during the presidency of Reagan, hashtag trickle-down economics, whose policies were taken from Heritage Foundation studies, including its mandate for leadership. Anyways, this think tank was responsible for crafting Project 2025, which any reasonable person who values their own freedom should hate. But did you know that Democrats also have their own think tanks? And do they equally suck? Yes and no. Actually, mostly no, because right-wing Christo-fascist think tanks are good at achieving their goals. But to define terms.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. To define terms for the audience, a think tank is an organization that conducts research and analysis on various topics, often with the goal of influencing public policy by providing expert insights and recommendations on issues like economics, social policy, technology, and international relations. Essentially, they are research institutions dedicated to generating ideas and solutions to complex societal problems, aiming to shape public discourse and policy decisions through their research findings. That is the sanitized definition. We've done episodes on this platform before about think tanks and how like a lot of them are funded by Boeing and Raytheon and the defense industrial complex. But this is not within that sphere of think tanks. So the Heritage Foundation is a heavyweight conservative think tank that's going to screw us all over. Today, we are actually going to popularize and put into the public consciousness Third Way. It's called Third Way, one of the DNC mainstays for policy crafting that advertises itself as center left, but really only occupies that space to block any sort of progressive movement, which we will demonstrate over the course of this episode. And they will fail to out-strategize the Heritage Foundation because despite the Margaret Atwood's Handmaid's Tale vibes that the Heritage Foundation gives off, they're actually good at achieving things and connecting to disaffected working class people, which the Democrats are not. So just to kind of give you a summation of what the Third Way public policy is, it's basically just Chuck Schumer, also from Hillary's aborted campaign, talking to C-SPAN about how they are going to win that election. This is Third Way in a nutshell.
For every blue-collar Democrat we will lose in Western PA, we will pick up 2-3 moderate Republicans in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And you can repeat that in Ohio and Illinois and Wisconsin. The voters who are most out there figuring out what to do are not the blue-collar Democrats. They are the college-educated Republicans who lean Republican or are independent and in the suburbs.
Okay, ironclad strategy that they're going to keep repeating for the next 30 years.
I can't handle. First of all, why is Chuck Schumer here? Why are you here? Why? Remember how he said a couple weeks ago, I wish actually I'd sent that clip. We won't rest we will win. And then he dipped and we haven't seen him since. Like,
Oh, was he actually like at a protest or something?
yes.
Oh, that's when like Doge was shutting down the Department of Education and they couldn't get into it.
No, and it's literally him. I wish we had the clip. It's literally him and Maxine Waters, who's also 500 years old, and that one Al Green congressman holding up his cane. And he's like, we will win.
I did find it real quick. I'm going to try to pull it up. I'm not sure if you'll get audio, though.
See the cane?
Wait. So what was this for? What was this rally about?
Okay, so this was when they were shutting down USAID.
Yeah, it's a rally from the Treasury building put on Chuck Schumer's YouTube page. Apparently, Chuck Schumer has a YouTube's.
Right. Okay, so literally just, you don't even need the audio. Look at them. Al Green holding up his cane. Chuck Schumer all decrepit and like falling apart. Maxine Waters, who's like 500 years old, all being like, we will win. We won't rest. And then like he disappeared and we haven't seen him in weeks. Which is like, again.
He's really good at he's really like keen on those antics. Him and Nancy Pelosi. What was it? What did he do in the BLM with the African? What was it? That African? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's totally on brand for him though.
I'm honestly surprised they didn't break a hip like leaning down in that position the first time
He might have.
did.
We cannot allow Elon Musk and a small group of people to secretly, behind closed doors, take away our privacy, take away our dollars, take away everything. Instead, we want a slightly larger group of Fortune 500 donors in the DNC to do the same thing that the oligarchs are doing.
Right. And that is the thing that is so enraging about it, is because we have no opposition party. There is no opposition. They don't oppose what is happening. They just oppose the way it's happening and who's doing it, but not what is happening. And the fact that Chuck Schumer is the leader of the Democratic Party in the Senate, and then we have fucking Hakeem Jeffries, where he thinks he's 1,000 times cooler than he is, being like, oh, I'm going to go to Silicon Valley to mend fences with all the Silicon Valley tech billionaires. And then
because they used to be Democrats.
Yeah. And then today it came out that instead of protesting the State of the Union, they're going to keep their powder dry. You know, they need to pick their battles because God's in control. This is the opposition.
I mean, I think the journalist Ken Klipperstein was right when he said the Democrats are doing a master class in quiet quitting. but yeah, this also brings us full circle. Really
That's so funny and so true. Ken Klipperstein is really funny. I love his work. And it's really funny because when he pointed out, I don't know if you guys saw it, I made a video about it on TikTok too, about how when Ken Klippenstein was criticizing them for being the fucking useless hacks they are, a bunch of Democratic apparatchik accounts started retweeting and being like, Ken Klippenstein's just anti-Black. They're just mad that a Black man's in power, the head of the Democrats in the House. And I'm like, and Jamie Harrison, who is the piece of shit hack lobbyist, former loser head of the Democratic National Committee that helped bring Democrats to the epic loss that they just had, got into the comments of the people saying that and was like, yeah, right. Right. Yeah, that's it.
Sorry. Is Hakeem Jeffries the Black man in power that they're referring to?
Yeah. Because they were making.
Hakeem Jeffries is in power? Really? Didn't he just say, like, there's nothing we can do? We have no leverage. They own the House, the Senate, the White House, and the judiciary. There's nothing we can do. Apparently, that's what power looks like. So
yeah, Hakeem Jeffries is an NPC. He's just an NPC. He actually is. Like, everything he says, I noticed when I was pulling clips to like do the video talking about him, that he talks insanely slow. But the reason why he talks insanely slow is because he's trying to remember his lines. Everything he says is rehearsed. It is given to him by the donor class. He doesn't say anything original. Also, another thing, he's never, which is another reason why the Democrats are fucking losers. He's never specific, because they don't actually believe in any policies that the Democratic base wants, that the progressive base wants, that the left wants. They don't believe in any of it. So he is always careful to be incredibly vague. When he was on Jon Stewart's podcast or when he was on Stephen A. Smith's podcast, he's being asked these very specific questions, and his answers to them are, because the Democrats are going to do what we've always done: stand on principle, defend working people, stand up for the everyday American with our values.
Defend working people who make over $500,000 a year.
Right. And then he goes, defending our values. Like, everything is always just some fucking platitude and vague fucking response, as like the right-wing fascists are being like, what if we just destroy birthright citizenship?
I guess, I've never thought of him as an NPC, but I think Hakeem Jeffries, and I'm going to put this on the public record, Hakeem Jeffries is an NPC with no side quests.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
No, totally. No, totally. I can't. It's so enraging to me that whether or not you're like a progressive or even like a centrist Democratic voter, which all centrist means is like, we defend corporate interests. That's all that really means.
Yeah.
Is whether you're any of that, the fact that you would be okay or interested in defending this party at this point that is putting up no opposition to what we're seeing. The Republicans are not successful with this fascist, tech feudalist oligarch takeover because of the fact that they're just so brilliant and they're just so passionate. They are good at politics and they are passionate, but they also have a huge leg up in the fact that they don't have an opposition. There is no real opposition to them. So It's a lot easier for them to implement their fascist agenda when the opposition is, we will win. And that's it.
Well, this actually, I'm glad I prepped this video. One of our friends, our social media friends, Sees the Means t-shirts.
I love him.
I think we played this video before on one of our other episodes, but it is the perfect encapsulation about what the Democratic Party is. And so we'll play this before getting into looking at Third Way's big Democratic comeback.
I think I know what video you're referring to, and I love it.
All right. Well, you're going to have to watch it again. Oh, no.
No, I love it.
HQ here, and we are just freaking out about Trump. So we need you to send us $5 right now so we can fight back, even though there's literally nothing we can do to actually fight back.
It's their government. What leverage do we have?
So if you're just listening to the audio, that was Hakeem Jeffries saying, it's their government. What leverage do we have? Anyways, continuing.
We will use your money to put out more ads just like this one, where we tell you all the horrible things he's doing and pretend to be outraged. Now, you may be asking yourself, why do the Dems always have their hands tied while the Republicans seem to be able to do whatever they want? And the answer is, you, that's why. Yeah, that's right, I said it. You, because we're not a left party. We're not even a progressive party, and we're definitely not a socialist party. No, you see, as Democrats, we're actually a right-wing capitalist and imperialist party that occupies the space of where a real left party should be. And our main mission is to stifle any progress you workers might make by getting you to rally behind us, by publicly denouncing injustices while roadblocking any attempt to overturn them. That's why we say Black Lives Matter while funding the police, and why we call for peace while spending a whole lot of money on
Please do not do any research on the history of liberals' alliance with fascism throughout the 20th century in places like Germany, Chile, and all over Latin America, or you may come to the conclusion that liberalism cannot reconcile its own contradictions, so they are eternally faced with the choice of fascism or the actual redistribution of wealth and power. And given that choice, they will either sit idly by on their hands while fascism takes sway, or they choose fascism outright because that's what poses the least threat to their own privileges. And for the love of God, do not read Black Shirts and Reds by Michael Parenti, or you may realize that the Democrats are actually our biggest threat because for the next 4 years, they will convince anyone that wants to put up a real fight to simply donate and vote for them instead.
So send us $10 more because we may have blown $1 billion on Harris's failed campaign and still ended up $20 million in debt, but we sure know how to party. Lady Gaga was there. Can you believe that? I love her.
Wasn't the Jumbotron, the massive globe at the DNC with Harris's face all over it? Wasn't it like $400,000 a day just to project it? But also,
I sent you another video that I thought it was if you want to watch it or whenever you want to watch it. I love that video he made. It's so true. That wasn't the video I was thinking of though. I was thinking of the video because we're talking about opposition where
Democrats fighting.
will it not let you play the audio?
No, I actually can't on StreamYard, but yeah, I just keep saying this. I wish the Democrats would take this, would treat this Trumpian overthrow and slashing of the government like it was a campus protest. That'd be nice. Mm-hmm. So this actually kind of brings us perfectly into the next segment, and we're going to finally, now that we've primed everybody for what the space the Democrats occupy in the political landscape, to not beat Republicans, but to block any progressive movement from access to political power. That's what they do. So anyways, pulling up this article that Politico broke 2 days ago, centrist Dem group rails against leftist identity politics and purity tests. First of all, this is inherently problematic because identity politics are more of a liberal thing than a leftist thing. I think, conservatives consider, and I've been thinking about this more, like consider liberals and leftists to be all part of like the left, right? But I'm actually going to go on some conservative podcasts here, and I've already got them scheduled to explain the difference between liberals, which are actually right wing, and actual leftists. But anyways, and the reason they mobilize identity politics, liberals generally in the Democratic Party, is to actually fragment every group in the working class from each other. So, white working class, black working class, they can't reconcile their own their differences because of like systemic racism or whatever. So they've weaponized that, and I think, well, the right has kind of like picked up on that in some ways. Now they're doing this anti-DEI campaign, but this was first weaponized during Hillary's campaign. So when several dozen Democratic political operatives and elected officials gathered at a Tony resort off the Potomac River last month, totally not elitist, frustration boiled over at the left wing of their party. Democrats had become too obsessed with quote unquote ideological purity tests. I guess what they mean is, in terms of a purity test, was like, do you support genocide in Gaza or not? Apparently that's now a purity test, and should push back against far left staffers and groups that exert a disproportionate influence on policy and messaging. Because left-wing politics have any sort of influence over the Democratic Party.
This is mass gaslighting, okay? This is mass gaslighting. First of all, as you pointed out correctly, it was the liberal wing that started weaponizing identity politics so that they could use it against Bernie Sanders in 2016. Yeah. That's number one. Bernie bros, he's sexist, all that shit was weaponized against Bernie in 2016. Second of all, when they're like, ideological purity test, we need to push back against the far left who have disproportionate influence. They don't have disproportionate influence. This is just them admitting once again that they despise the left flank of their own party and then saying we need to push back against them. You already do. That's how I know that the Democrats do have it in them to fight back. And it's not just a matter of them being weak, because when you see them against the progressives or the left, they're fucking vicious and you see the knives come out. But then they're weak and pathetic when it comes to the right. So you know it's on purpose. So what is this horse shit of we need to push back against the left as if that's not already how it works?
Yeah. No, there's no hate like a liberal's hate of Jill. Well, actually, there's no hate like a DNC donor's hate of Jill Stein. And honestly, they equally hate Cornel West and Claudia Carita, but they can't do it as openly because they're identity politics.
Well, that was so like apparent that they were like launching more campaigns against Jill Stein than they were against Donald Trump. It appeared, that was the impression I got. They hated Jill Stein because I think that Jill Stein threatened. It was all psychological. The idea that a third party could gain popularity as an alternative to the Democratic Party was way more of a threat than Donald Trump was, because at least Donald Trump presented an urgency to vote Democrat for future elections, to avoid it. So
also there were grassroots campaigns, and there's nothing the Democratic establishment is more scared of than grassroots campaign. And we're actually going to look at this because they put out a policy paper from this conference we're talking about. But just one more paragraph before we dive into that, because it's literally the most out of touch, insane thing I've read this year. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to keep track. We're only a couple months into 2025, and I don't know, it's totally insane. But anyways, the group of moderate Democratic consultants, campaign staffers, elected officials, and party leaders who gathered in Loudoun County, Virginia, for a day-and-a-half retreat where they plotted their party's comeback, searched for why the party lost in November and what to do about it. Much of what they focused their ire on centered on the kind of identity politics that they believed lost them races up and down the ballots. One of the key ways to win back the trust of the working class, some gathered there argued, was to reduce far left influence and infrastructure on the party, according to the Takeaways document. So we're going to look at the Takeaways document. It's egregious, and you should definitely watch the rest of the episode because we're going to go through it point by point. Here we go. Oh, wait, where is it? Oh, here we go. Third way, comeback retreat.
Lol.
Okay, so early Feb 2025, Third Way gathered a group of highly experienced and passionate political professionals over 1.5 days to begin to chart the Democratic comeback. As part of this retreat, attendees participated in breakout sessions, to deliberate on why Democrats are struggling with working class voters around cultural issues, the nature of the economic trust gap with this critical group, and ideas for how to address both problems. So it seems like reasonable things to address. They just went straight up right wing with it. So
from a bunch of rich people and rich Democratic donors and rich
with trust funds,
useless consultants that helped lose the Democrats this last election. So the same people that were the consultants, which that whole grifting class, and the losers that helped run those campaigns, those losing campaigns, are now going on a retreat, all rich in Loudoun County, to talk about how you're going to address working class issues while not inviting anybody that actually represents the working class interest, and talking about how the answer to getting working class people back is moving further to the right.
Right. God forbid they invited a couple union organizers, right? So below are the takeaways summarizing what was discussed. While not every insight is earth-shattering to those who work in politics, the elitism is a strong whiff right there of that, they do point the way forward to some fundamental issues. So, takeaways on why Democrats have a cultural disconnect with the working class. 1, overemphasis on identity politics. Many working class voters feel Democrats prioritize niche identity-based groups with overbroad unifying messages, making them feel excluded rather than included. It's completely backwards, right?
Yeah. Not only that, but no, people are not mad. No, the reason why people are mad is not that you have a quote unquote inclusive view of niche identity. It's the fact that you use those as a way to ignore addressing problems that everybody faces, including people in those identity groups. So people aren't mad in general, people who might be liberal or might be Democratic voters, that you talk about protecting trans people. No, they're mad that you use trans people and trans issues as a way to obfuscate other issues and as a way to ignore addressing material conditions for everyday people. That's what people are mad about.
Yeah. And they do get one thing right in the second bullet point. Two, the faculty lounge problem. Democrats are often viewed as judgmental, out of touch, and dismissive of those without elite education or progressive views. This makes the party seem disconnected from everyday people. Yeah, so maybe you should have invited some people that,
Right.
don't have a graduate degree or a trust
Right.
fund.
The funny thing about that is that I'm like, yeah, that is true. They do have a faculty lounge snob problem with like only wanting to be around other elites and rich people and college educated people. So you went to go talk about that with a bunch of rich people and consultants.
In the faculty lounge.
Yeah.
In fact, a little resort faculty.
A faculty lounge on steroids.
Oh my God.
Especially since they're talking about addressing their elitist problem while attacking progressives and the left. Do they think that every single person who's progressive and on the left and a lot of these groups and a lot of these unions are all college educated rich people?
I think this is one of the most out of touch documents I've ever read in my life, given the recent historical context of what's leading up to this. So
yeah.
Failure to prioritize economic concerns. While voters struggle with jobs, wages, and inflation, check, Democrats are seen as more focused on cultural and social issues than on economic progress and opportunity. Yeah, cool. I'm glad you brought that up. So why are you hating on left-wing progressive movements? I don't know. Like,
wait. Yeah, I like how they're seen as not focusing on issues of economics and people being able to move up. That's literally what so many of these left groups are focused on and why you hate them.
But it totally goes contradiction to 0.7. It's like 0.7 and 0.3 just are completely antithesis to each other.
Yeah, allowing the far left to define the party.
It's like
and by far left, they mean people who talk about taxation. Those are the people. They're like, we need to focus more on economic opportunities and not so much on cultural issues. And then like the left wing is like, hey, why don't we talk about actually like monopoly power and union organizing and wages and taxing the rich? And they're like, fuck off, left commie.
Yeah, you love Stalin. So
yeah.
Well, I also see that they're taking a page from the right, from the Republican playbook of conflating leftism with cultural wars and identity politics.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're conflating the two. They're literally trying to change the definition of leftism. Yeah, because it's as if they're talking to a Republican base here.
Right. 100%. You're right, because as Greg mentioned this earlier, the right wing doesn't understand that there's a massive difference between liberals and leftists.
Yeah, they associate it with the same thing. And that's why I feel like sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's why I was just gonna say that I think like one of our attack strategies going forward should be to like give up on the liberals and let's focus on the right-wing working class and let them know what leftism really is, instead of trying to like pull in liberals anymore. I think we've exhausted that. I think we should just now target the right-wing working class and just clearly like sit them down and explain to them what leftism actually is, and they might actually relate to it far more than liberals would, in my opinion.
I've had a lot of success with that. So
I think that I agree that we should be trying to also reach out to the right, but I don't think that we should totally give up on liberals because not every liberal is like these
I
people.
started off as a liberal before I
Yeah,
got
a lot of people, I think I'm not talking about like the DC people and the people in politics and these kind of clowns, but there are a lot of people that would casually identify themselves as liberal that I think can be polled, that would agree more with the left if they actually paid attention. And another group I think that we should be trying to go after are non-voters.
I think there's particular people that would be good at that. Like I think that some of us aren't good at that, of reaching liberals who are like, flaky liberals, like they could come over to the left. And I think that's where people like you come in. But then I see a bunch of effort on people who are just not good at it, who are putting too much focus on liberals. It's like, dude, I really think you would be a lot better at talking to like these rednecks over in like Alabama who are struggling with their mortgage than you would with like some New York liberal posh, Starbucks, cafe latte.
Okay, well, let me tell you
Erdogan.
something. Let me tell you something about being posh in New York. Starbucks, that's the public restroom in New York City. Okay.
Oh, really? I don't know.
Actually gets their coffee there. All right.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, seriously. You go, if you want to be posh in New York, to an indie restaurant and get like ristretto or whatever, pulled espresso. Okay, you don't go to Starbucks. Starbucks is so gauche.
It's horrible. And this brings us to point 5 of this paper: fear of dissent within the party. This is one of the craziest sentences.
It's them stopping the dissent. It's them.
Yeah, but let me just lay this out for the audience. Democrats are perceived as intolerant of internal debate, where questioning progressive orthodoxy results in backlash rather than open discussion. Candidates and operatives need to feel more comfortable just saying no to activist groups and unpalatable far-left ideas.
What's the unpalatable far left idea they're referring to? Are they referring to like
stopping a genocide? That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
That's crazy talk.
Is that the far left idea that they want
extremist shit? Calling for the end of a genocide.
Being mean to Israel and wanting the war in Ukraine to end.
Right. Also, can somebody the most amazing part about this one that you read is the first part of that's true, except it's them that don't tolerate dissent.
Yeah,
like Democrats are perceived as not allowing internal dissent. Yeah, that's true, except for it's you bitches that don't allow it. The decrepit Democratic Party has a leadership structure of a bunch of corporatists who are 975 years old that even when AOC tried to run to be the chair of the oversight committee, they fucking crushed her because they hate progressives. And they're like, no, let's get 79-year-old Jerry fucking Connolly because it's his turn.
You know how sorry. There's a lag. My bad.
No, go ahead.
Do you know how I read this though? This point, it appears that they're trying to like shift the Overton window towards the side of like being more tolerant of like right-wing ideologies. Mm-hmm. Like it's like they're trying to say, hey, can we just kind of move over this way and just be more tolerant of that and not be tolerant of this over here? Like
100%.
We got to squash this whole anti-genocide thing. It's just too extreme. Right. But fascism, I mean, maybe they got a point. I mean, maybe we should just be a little bit more open to that. So that's what I read.
Kill with your civil rights nonsense. Why don't you guys just kill with like it's like no, but literally though, and a lot of us who were fighting with Democrats before the election said that this exact thing was going to happen, that they were not going to learn a fucking thing from this loss and that they were going to move to the right. This is moving significantly to the right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why exactly what I feel like this is for. It was like finally they're finally going to be like, okay, guys, let's shift the brand of the Democrats. Let's try to move our base over to the right a little bit. Let's inch them closer to it, be more accepting, and let's cut off the left. We just got to get rid of this cancer.
The other maddening thing about this is that they're acting like this hasn't been tried a million times. They'll be like, it's all the far left's fault. We need to try something different. Like we've tried a million times with fucking Bill. Like, let's go back to the Bill Clinton era. Let's go back to like all they do is move to the right and then pretend like we gave leftists a try and the leftists just fucked everything up. And now we got to go back. It's like, who were your fucking candidates? Your candidates were fucking Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, John Kerry. You're always to the fucking right. They've been to the fucking right. But then they try to gaslight you and go, oh no, guys, you know what the problem is? It's the fucking leftists, okay? We need more cowbell. Why don't we try more cowbell, more right-wing policies?
Again, I'm just going to run this Chuck Schumer quote from 2016 again, just to drive this point home.
For every blue-collar Democrat we will lose in Western PA, we will pick up 2, 3 moderate Republicans in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Yeah, they're just going to keep trying and keep trying.
It's literally more cowbell.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Point 7, allowing the far left to define the party. I also want to point out that we've made a massive effort during this episode to define the terms we're using, whether it be like think tanks, etc. They're not defining what the far left is. They're just saying the far left.
And they're not defining what the unpopular cultural positions are. What is I would say that the anti-genocide movement has now infiltrated the right as well. It's very popular. Very popular. Sending our money to Israel is very unpopular. So what is this unpopular cultural position? What do you think that
it's interesting that they're extremely vague about this, even though this is supposed to be a takeaway list.
Right. Activist groups and progressive staffers push unpopular cultural positions, making it seem like Democrats are more extreme than they actually are. By all means, be as centrist as possible. Operatives and campaigns must remember that activist groups exist to promote their single issue rather and raise money around it, not to make Democrats electable. I'm sorry, just because I have an innate understanding of capitalism and imperialism and colonialism and finally genocide, I know that what's happening in Palestine is connected to the Stop Cop City movement, the prison industrial complex, the fact that Democrats can't get elected. It's all part of the same system. But yeah,
and taxes, the Pentagon budget. It's the Pentagon budget. Like everybody pays taxes, 30% at least. Where's that money going? It's not going to like, your social welfare programs that benefit everybody across the aisle. So it is like, that's the one thing that was like the biggest issue I had with like, even like grassroots Democrats was talking about Gaza as if it's a single issue. It's actually connected to all of the other issues when you dig into it. And what's crazy is that like grassroots, like everyday Republicans figured that out before grassroots Democrats did, because they were captivated by this narrative of the single issue thing. So.
Yeah. And I don't know. This is just so insane. And now we're getting to the second half of the takeaway sheet. And I'm not going to go through every point, but here's number 1, takeaways on why Democrats are not trusted by the working class on the economy.
Wait. Before that, can you go to 10? Can you go to 10, dude? How do you get to skip over number 10? Lack of a positive national identity message. Democrats focus on much of America's flaws, racism, sexism, inequality, without acknowledging the country's progress and potential, making them seem pessimistic and unpatriotic. What?
Oh, no.
Bro, what are you talking about? Even patriots are pissed off right now as how fucked up this country is. They're like, you talk to anybody, even like anybody in your like red states, they hate the way our country is going. Yeah. So I mean, that's hilarious. Anyways,
I actually do think there's some truth to that, but as per usual with this document, their takeaway from this is everything in the wrong direction. So like, yes, there is a perception that when it comes to being on the left or Democrats, that like basically there's a perception of some that are like, it's just America bad. Okay. America bad, but not Israel. Like, so I kind of get that in a little way, except for their answer to that is not, let's make the country better and let's fight to make this country more free and equal to everyone. It's, why don't we just start copying the Republicans and be more jingoistic?
Yeah.
For every blue collar Democrat we'll lose, we'll pick up 2 moderate Republicans.
You just gotta start spending more time at the country clubs. Just start recruiting there. Start campaigning there.
Literally, this document, it's like I'm having a hard time. I like just keeping my rage in, because it's like everything on this fucking document is gaslighting and projection. And their takeaways are, why don't we keep moving to the right, which is the same strategy we've been doing for decades and decades. And I think that's the reason why so many people need to understand, whether or not you're a liberal or somebody who's previously voted Democrat, that this is not going to get any better. They exist to sheepdog people into the Democratic Party so that they can move you to the right and block any actual change or progressive movements, which is why they are so vicious to the left and so obsequious to the right. It's not going to get better. It is going to continue to get worse.
Because it's all about their capital and their money. So takeaways on why Democrats are not trusted by the working class on the economy. Number one, vilification of wealth. Democrats are seen as hostile to success, indifferent to people's desire to attain wealth, while reflexively attacking wealthy business leaders instead of promoting economic mobility and aspiration.
So they attacked the donor class?
No, you guys, this is so unbelievable.
I don't know.
So their takeaway as to why people don't trust them is not because they serve the donors too. They're all owned by corporate interests. They're all owned by Silicon Valley interests. They do whatever the lobbyists say. They trade stocks to profit off of their offices. That and income inequality.
But no, their main problem is they're attacking wealth too much.
Yeah. And the income inequality now is worse now than it was in the fucking Gilded Age. None of those things are the problem to them. Their takeaway is, why aren't you nicer to Mark Cuban? That's their takeaway.
This is so mean. This is so mean to BlackRock.
No, for like literally, instead of being like, maybe they are mad at us and they don't trust us on the economy because we always do what the Republicans want to do. We give tax cuts to the rich. We don't push back on that. We give endless amounts of money to the Israeli regime in foreign wars. We don't fight back against their attempts to cut Social Security. We don't want to raise the minimum wage. We haven't raised the minimum wage. We took away the child tax credit. We don't believe in anything that would actually put a check on corporate or 1% greed. That's not the problem. The problem is
we're attacking wealthy people too much. Americans just don't like that.
When are wealthy people going to get a break?
This brings us to point 5. Point 5 is perceived government overreach. Voters see Democrats as favoring excessive regulations, inefficient spending, and programs that don't directly benefit them. Yes, excessive regulations, like regulating the banks, breaking monopolies, antitrust laws.
Well, this kind of goes into the topic of regulatory capture too. That's a complicated topic where, yes, they do favor regulation, but it's regulation that mostly affects small businesses and not large corporations.
Exactly.
So regulatory capture is an understated facility and mechanism that happens between this fake kind of struggle between Republicans and Democrats with the corporate world. Democrats do pass heavy regulations, but they don't favor the small businesses. They favor the large corporations who can afford the lawyers. They can afford to cut through the red tape. Whereas mom and pop, they can't fucking cut through the regulations to open up a fucking cafe, but Starbucks can right away. So it's an underappreciated topic.
And also, I just found out why they hate the left so much. It's point 7. Republicans are the aspirational party. GOP messaging suggests they want voters to be rich, while Democrats are seen as focusing on redistribution rather than wealth creation.
The most hilarious part about that is that they're not. Like, if that's actually how the Democrats were, I would be volunteering right now. Like, but that's not what Democrats are focused on redistribution, and Republicans are seen as wanting people to be rich. This is fucking insane. That is not, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah, but here's why they're getting even more right-wing. 8.8, climate policy viewed as anti-growth. The emphasis on climate change is seen as harming job opportunities and economic growth, especially in working-class communities.
Wait, like East Palestine, Ohio? It's definitely...
Michigan.
Yeah, I'm sure the people in East Palestine, Ohio, are just furious about the attempt to protect the climate there.
And the lack of self-awareness really comes in on point 9, the break room versus the boardroom. Democratic economic messages often come from elites, celebrities, and politicians rather than working class voices that voters can relate to. Yes, this entire fucking document is about that.
Wait, I like how they're like, it doesn't, if the messaging comes from elites, and not the working class people. You want the working class people to be inspired by your messaging on why we need to defend rich people more and deregulation?
Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is you want for us to defend all the incredibly horrible, fucking awful right-wing positions when it comes to economics and deregulatory regimes on huge corporations and more tax cuts for the rich and more wealth redistribution to the fucking top. You want that, but you want it to come from working class lunch bucket Joe?
This is the most
that's basically what
schizophrenic.
they're saying.
This is the most schizophrenic document I've ever read.
Yeah, well, also point 10, before we get into the actual takeaways, failure to address economic anxiety. Voters believe Democrats care more about the very poor than the struggling middle class. Because
What middle class?
Fuck poor people. And fail to provide a clear path to economic security. Voters often believe they're wealthier than the people Democrats talk about. Who the fuck feels wealthy right now?
Holy shit.
Also fuck poor people. And if you're homeless, straight to jail. Straight to jail.
Right.
We're literally all feeling poor right now.
Right.
But no,
I
that's
like
the
that they're
problem.
like,
I feel like they're talking to me like I'm a poor person and not like I'm
right.
like the
And they're
wealthy
so
person that
out
I am.
of touch that they're still even using the term middle class as if we even fucking have a middle class anymore.
It's working class or bust. It's working class or capitalist. That's it.
Basically.
Yeah.
Wow. My head hurts.
Okay. We're really almost done, guys. I'm sorry. So takeaways on how Democrats can reconnect culturally with the working class. So my favorite point is emphasize shared values and cultural alignment. Frame rights as about freedom and justice, not just identity-based concern. Okay. Highlight similarities between marginalized groups and mainstream American values. Embrace patriotism, community, and traditional American imagery.
E.g. Farms Main Street. That's hilarious, bro. That's all we need. Just put some farmers out there in the next campaign.
This is what they do. This is what they do. Remember during like the first Obama administration, they had all the Democrats come out and like shoot videos where they were shooting regulations. And they're like, I'm a farmer.
Yeah. Reduce far left influence and infrastructure. Push back against far left staffers and groups that exert a disproportionate influence on policy and messaging. Ban far left candidate questionnaires and refuse to participate in forums that create ideological purity tests.
So basically, this would be like the Republicans saying, fuck the MAGA base. We're not going to allow them to talk. That's like the equivalent, because the far left base that they're talking about, which are just like progressive and left voters, oftentimes who have given the Democrats victories and helped them win, Joe Biden would not have won without the left, without progressive young voters. And so for them to turn around and be like, okay, basically a part of our strategy going forward is to completely excise anybody on the left from our party. Oh, okay. Okay, cool story. Thank you for letting us know. I've already taken that upon myself to exit your piece of shit party, your right-wing fascist fucking Republican light party. But thank you for putting it in writing so other people who are on the left or other progressive people know that they have no place there. And that's really what I want to emphasize too to the libs, some of the libs that maybe are more on the left side, that this party hates you. They fucking hate you. They don't want you in it.
Yeah. And yeah, Republican light's a great term. Same great taste, fewer calories, get the job done, way worse. And point 5 really kind of brings home this really out of touch aspirational Republican light approach that they're taking. Engage with the working class in their spaces. Get out of elite circles and into real communities. Example:
Tailgates, gun shows.
gun shows, local restaurants, and churches.
Oh my gosh. You know what's really funny is that it's all things that are super Republican coded. Like they're actually just coming out and saying we want to be more Republican. Because
Tailgates, gun shows.
Yeah,
churches.
because why isn't the getting out and meeting regular people why isn't it the black cookout? Like why isn't it like, I don't know, the fast food restaurant? Why isn't it where like the library? I don't know, where do the libs hang out? Like, but it's not
Arts.
Regular Americans who are maybe on the left or maybe a non-voter hang out at bars, hang out at pubs, hang out at coffee shops, not all just Starbucks. And then they're like, oh, we got to meet them where they are. Let's go to the gun shows. This is the perfect encapsulation of what an out-of-touch elite liberal thinks a Republican is.
But it gets worse than that, because point 7 is embrace moderation, individualism, and masculinity. Reconnect with values like hard work, rugged individualism, and entrepreneurialism. Are they trying to be a bro podcast? Are they trying to be a bro podcast?
No, they're literally like, how can we be more to the right? How can we be more Republican? Like, why? This is actually.
Why can't we get invited on Joe Rogan? Can we just get to the point where you'll get an invite from Joe Rogan and maybe
right? And like they're literally saying like we need to move to the right. Like they're not actually saying we need to move to the right, but that is what they are saying. We need to embrace more traditional values and masculinity and like going on like bro podcasts and like rugged individualism. Okay, here's the other reason why this isn't going to work. Because we already have a Republican Party. We already have a Republican Party, and people are always going to choose real Coke over fake Coke.
And my prayer is that by the time they like, you know, roll all this out, people on the right working class will already be over to the left. So they'll arrive and there'll be an empty room. That's my prayer, is that all of this that they're trying to do is they're just gonna be too late. It's
and even when they do have some like critique that's accurate, they go in the opposite direction. Like the answer, because yes, in the past, the left and the liberals have had a problem with men. There is an issue with men on the left and with the Democratic Party. But the answer to that is not moving to the right and being like, let's just go do a Gillette commercial and ride a horse and get some Bud Light and talk about how to be a masculine man and, I don't know, smack your wife around.
You know what this is? This is the answer. This is the journey that Budweiser took when they did the whole thing where with the trans influencer.
You're right.
Who opened it, and then they made a Budweiser commercial where they're like, Budweiser, we're a handshake, used to be a promise, and then they have like the freaking horses. You remember that? That's what this is. This is Budweiser trying to put out that commercial again. Yes. It's not gonna work. That's hilarious.
Yeah, we already have a fucking Republican Party, and the problem is that the Democrats are always going to face. And the reason why this is not going to fucking work is because the right can never go too far right, because they openly serve capital and they don't mind fascists and they don't mind like you can be as fucking far right fascist as you want to in the Republican Party because of their open relationship with capital. But because Democratic voters do have issues with income inequality and with the fact that we don't have healthcare and things that actually challenge capital, the Democrats can never beat the Republicans when it comes to capitalism and when it comes to policies having to do with redistribution or social welfare programs. They're never going to. So we already fucking have a capitalist oligarch serving party, and your pathetic ass diet version of it is never going to satisfy anyone. Because people who are on the right already have a home there. And people who are on the left who believe in some social programs are not going to be down with you being like, you know what? I think the answer to income inequality is just like being more nice to, like, I don't know, and Dave Portnoy. We need more Dave Portnoys on our side.
We need more.
What I love about this document is that every point you make brings us to the next point. So the next one is revise Democratic fundraising priorities. Move away from the dominance of small dollar donors whose preferences may not align with the broader electorate. Give candidates and campaigns more flexibility in how they spend funds without excessive donor constraints.
Insane. Insane.
You want that private jet? Go ahead. Stop worrying
Insane.
about it.
No, fucking sane. That actually is probably one of the worst, that they actually just come out and say that. Hey, all those small dollar donors that actually became popularized because people understood the undue influence of dark money and large corporate and incredibly wealthy donors were not representing the interests of the base of the party. I have a solution to that. Fuck you. We're just going to stop with small dollar donations. You're a regular person, maybe living in, I don't know, Iowa or Vermont or Colorado, and you want to give a small dollar donation because you're hoping that the Democratic Party might, represent you. Actually, you little pissant, we don't want your fucking money. We want money from Mark Cuban. We want money from Raytheon. Go fuck yourself, small dollar donors. In fact, not only do we not need your fucking money, we don't want your fucking money, because that means that we might actually have to represent you.
Yeah, and again, point 5. The next point 5: be pro aspiration and pro capitalism in a smart way. Recognize that working class voters value upward mobility and economic success. Have a prosperity gospel aimed at the working class. Call out corporate abuses individually instead of attacking corporations as a whole.
Wow.
A prosperity gospel. Hey, Mark, can you tell us what a prosperity gospel is? Seeing that you come from Christian evangelicals,
just go ahead and Google or TikTok Joel Osteen. There it is. Don't even. I'm just gonna leave it right there. Just type in Joel Osteen and watch one of his sermons. But hey, okay, Blakeley, I want to ask you where I want to go through your POV when they overturned Roe v. Wade. Where were you politically at that time? And what was your reaction when you got the email to donate $5 to the Democratic Party when that happened? I just want to know.
I was enraged. I was losing it because I was like, I know you motherfuckers are not asking me for money. I know you motherfuckers are not asking me for money.
The reason why I bring this up to the audience is that I told you in the green room here is that you and Greg used to be Democrats. You had that journey of being liberal Democrat over to the left. I did not have that journey. I was a Republican Christian nationalist, went to Palestine, immediately sunk into a depression, and went immediately anarchist, like anti everything. So I don't know what it's like to have gone through that tunnel of being a liberal and a Democrat. I was joking earlier. It's like, I'm sure there was some goo that you got stuck on you when you were moving over to the left and you were trying to wash it off. You took a shower and it still smelled. So you had to put some baking soda on yourself. I want to know what your journey was like, because maybe somebody out there in the audience could relate to, maybe they're right there. Maybe they're right on the edge of going over to the left and they're a liberal and they're a Democrat. And maybe something you could say to kind of inspire them to completely wash off all the goo.
I mean, for me, which I said earlier too, I was never, some people were born and raised Democrats, it's a part of their identity. That was not me. I was raised conservative. So I was very anti-abortion. I was very I was actually very anti-Democrat when I was growing up. I became a Democrat kind of during the 2016 election because of Bernie Sanders. So I was always in that wing of the party. But I was still voting for Democrats. I did vote for Joe Biden, even though I was upset about the way Bernie Sanders was treated in that election. I wasn't happy to vote for Joe Biden, but I did because I was so tired of Trump at that point. I feel like people forget how exhausting Trump is. Like, I was just tired of him. I was tired of his bullshit.
I was tired
his
of hearing about him. I was like, literally, I was actually like happy that Joe Biden got elected, not because I give a shit about him, but just because I was tired of hearing my pro-Trumper friends talk about him and my liberal friends talking about him. Like,
Right. Like,
one thing that liberals and conservative and Trumpers have in common, they're obsessed with Donald Trump. I feel like I feel like secretly so many liberals have like, you know, like that fetish that some people have about somebody who they hate, and they just kind of secretly like them. I feel like that's how liberals are with Trump, because they can't get them out of their dreams. And I was just tired of hearing about it. So when Joe Biden got elected, I'm like, oh, fuck, another old guy. Fuck it. At least it's a different old guy. So,
right. And I think people forget that a lot of people voted for Joe Biden as a quote unquote promise to return to normal, because shit was really crazy. Like, COVID was scary. I know that the right wing has completely rewritten history to pretend that everything that happened during the Black Lives Matter movement and COVID was somehow a Democrat overseeing it. The right has retconned that, but actually it was Trump that was in office overseeing the COVID pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement. And so, all of that insanity happened under him. And I think people got tired of it and wanted it to end. And the fact that he was so incompetent during the COVID pandemic, because again, right wingers and MAGA love nothing more than to not ever hold Trump accountable for his own actions. So we all rewrite history and say everything was Anthony Fauci, when who hired Anthony Fauci? Who elevated
who removed the restrictions of financing gain of function research? That was Trump. He gave Anthony Fauci the. That's why I always tell my Trumper friends, it's like, okay, you're like, you hate all these, you know, vaccine mandates and everything, like Operation Warp Speed, where he literally was pushing pharmaceutical companies to just bypass a lot of heavily needed protocols during trials. They just ignored a lot of protocols during the trials, and they were pushing through technology that was rather new, that you got to take your time before you start rolling it out. It was extremely dangerous the way they did that, and nobody holds Trump accountable for that. They hold Biden accountable for that, which they should, but they also should have held Trump accountable for that. So, like, I don't know, like, and this goes back to, like, I always talk about my football analogy, my football theory about like Democrat presidents and Republican presidents, is that it seems like the relationship between Trump and Biden has been that Biden has been the quarterback throwing the football, and then Trump catches it. Taking Gaza as an example, Biden financed, supplied, and gave a green light for the genocide. Trump is now he's catching the football and now trying to give the green light for an ethnic cleansing. It really appears like they play on each other. It really appears that Biden did something that sets it up perfectly for Trump to now accomplish the end game. It's like a two-part. It's like a part two, part one, and part two.
They work together, and they work on behalf of the same interest. That's why I
at the end of the day, the big corporations fucking win. Like, even Ukraine.
That's why I can't take it when liberals are like, well, look at that. Trump now is letting them ethnically cleanse Gaza. It's like, who do you think set that up for him? Who do you
exactly?
Have you seen Gaza? Have you seen Gaza? What happened?
And I see the Ukraine war is the same thing. The back and forth between Trump and Biden back in 2014, Trump sent weapons to Ukraine. Before there was the war. Biden, dished out money, and now Trump is now reaping the benefits of the rebuilding effort and mining the minerals. And guess what? We're not benefiting from that. Ukraine is not benefiting from that. Ukrainians aren't going to benefit from the rebuilding effort. It's just all BlackRock and all the mining and energy companies that are going to benefit from it. So it's like, when I hear, I get pissed at liberals and Trumpers equally, because Trumpers are like, yeah, look at Trump. He's holding it to Zelensky. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, okay, so what? We're getting minerals out of it. You're not getting minerals out of it. BlackRock's getting minerals out of it. We're not benefiting. Ukraine's not benefiting. Russia, it just appears that it's, all right.
Yeah, right. No, I agree. Also, in terms of Democratic presidents being the quarterback for the Republican receivers, we just have to talk about Tom Homan. The American law enforcement officer and political commentator who served as acting director of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement under the Obama administration, was elected to the same position by Trump for the same job because he was so good at deporting people under Obama.
Right, but the liberals will pretend that didn't happen. They'll be like, what do you mean? But so going back to what you were asking me about how I moved, I was already unhappy about voting for Biden, but I viewed it as harm reduction. And basically, it just got to the point where I became tired of the Lucy and the football from the Democrats. And like I said, I wasn't even involved in Democratic politics for that long, but I did consistently vote for Democrats in every midterm. I got really excited when Justice Democrats came out and AOC first got elected, thinking that there was a possibility that the left could actually move in and get power to the Democratic Party. And basically how I got to the left from the Democrats is realizing over time that they're all on the same team. It is Lucy in the football. It's, oh, we're going to pretend to be resisting, but we're actually always going to be moving to the right and helping Trump. The way that I saw them crush not only the Bernie Sanders movement, but crush the progressives, the way I saw the Democrats crush AOC, crush Cori Bush, crush Jamal Bowman, the way that I see the disdain that they have for the left was already moving me away from them more and more and more. And then Gaza was the nail in the coffin. When Gaza, the genocide started happening, I was like, I am done with these motherfuckers. I am not voting for them anymore.
I feel like I walked through your journey through your videos of that. Like, I feel like I honestly viewed the last election through your POV because I was literally following your videos and I wanted to hear your POV of things. And I knew that you were a former Democrat and I was trying to get in your head psychologically to see what that's like for you to watch this horror. And I feel like so many former Democrats, ex-liberals they're in shock mode. They were still going through the shock phase of it's like the cycles of grief, right? You have to accept that your loved one has passed away. The loved one here being the illusion that the Democratic Party is for civil rights and all that and progressive ideals. So because of that shock, I feel like the lag of people kind of waking up to the corruption of the Democratic Party was because they're still in the shock phase of these cycles of grief and they haven't moved on to acceptance and then coming up with a new strategy of coping while still hanging on to the memory that they once had of being like a progressive Democrat,
Right.
And
I just a lot of Democrats progressives that are in total delusion thinking that they're going to reform the party again. And I get thinking that in 2018 or 2019, but that fight already happened and the progressives lost.
And I feel like that's them coping instead of moving on to acceptance. There's another thing that happens during grief period. Sometimes people don't accept it and they move into delusion. It's a very sad case when people go through that when they lose the loved one. I feel like that's the phase that they're going into.
I'm so glad you brought up delusion because it brings us back to this paper how they're going to reform the Democratic Party and turn this entire franchise around.
I can't see that shit. Hold on.
Okay.
I printed it off.
First of all, I just wanted to say that 1 second. Oh, yes. One of the bullet points is listen to non-college voters without judgment, making their concerns central to policy conversations. The fact that you have to write that out is crazy.
First of all, the fact that you had to write that out is crazy. Second of all, no, the fuck they don't. They fucking hate people that didn't go to college. You know who is a non-college educated voter, a working class person? This guy. I didn't go to college and they have no fucking interest in listening to what I have to say. In fact, every time I meet a Democrat that went to college, they fucking talk down to me. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of more cool with me because I went to Columbia. I don't tell them I dropped out though. So, so here's the final point. Embrace populism thoughtfully. Critique corporate excess and corruption, but avoid an anti-capitalist stance.
Okay. So what they mean is co-opt the aesthetic. Co-opt the aesthetic of populism. So once again, it's just the playbook of the right because that's what the Republicans already do. The Republicans love the anti-establishment aesthetic while doing everything that corporations love. So we already have that, bro.
Can I ask you can I ask you one more question just as to kind of understand where you were as a Democrat? See, my thing is when I look at the Democratic Party, I've always hated them. Hate the Republican Party too, of course, but I've always hated the Democrats. And I always go back to I try to imagine being a Democrat. I'm like, how could anybody be a Democrat after the 1994 crime bill? How
Was that
how were
supervised?
they able to reconcile the reality of that for minorities and destroying minority communities? And for that matter, same with Kamala Harris. How can you reconcile voting for a woman that destroyed thousands of Black families in California and minorities? With, I mean, I'm not, again, I'm not judging you. I'm not throwing shade on you. I'm trying to understand Democrats because I have a lot of friends that are Democrats.
Right. Well, like I said, first, like when it comes to me, I'm not that person who was like always a Democrat or
Right.
like the Democrats. I really actually never did. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016. After
Right.
what they did to Bernie, I voted for Jill Stein. So I was already like I became a Democrat so I could vote for Bernie, but I already didn't like them.
Harm
So
reduction. That was what you
right.
was centered
So
on,
what
harm
I'm saying is I was never that kind of Democrat you're describing. I was always a Democrat once I became one and got involved in politics as a harm reduction mechanism because the alternative to me was worse. It was the Republicans. But that's where I also got tired of them because I realized that like all they do is use our rights as leverage to hold us hostage. That's because I actually did struggle with whether or not to vote for Kamala Harris in this last election because I kept hearing about Project 2025 and how they were going to assault our rights. And I knew that was true. I never said that like you could go back and watch any of my videos. I never said, because I kind of struggled with it publicly, that I didn't believe Project 2025 was real. I did believe it was real. I did believe what they were saying, what the right was saying. My thing was, how long are we going to continue to let Democrats hold our existence and our rights hostage as they continue to enable the fascist Republicans? Because you're not going to sit here and fucking tell me that it's harm reduction for me to vote for Kamala Harris as she proudly talks about throwing trans people under the bus, doing more draconian border policy, and never even fucking doing anything or even pretending she's going to do anything to stop the Palestinian genocide. In fact, she's going to tell the one Palestinian who wanted to speak at the DNC to kick rocks.
Yeah. And it's as good. This is like such a good episode because I have a very dear Democrat friend of mine, and she's pro-Palestinian, very, but she's still a Democrat. She believes that she does believe in the better of two evils argument. And I just kind of would like your perspective to somebody who's in that space right now.
Well, actually, it kind of seems like I was more Democrat growing up than Blakeley was. I grew up amongst the East Coast liberal elites. I went to boarding school, and like we were very, very proud elitist liberals. So like I bought the sauce because I didn't have a critique. I was intentionally not taught a critique of material conditions or anything like that. I was also, I became like, I guess, working class when I ran off after I got expelled and joined the army, and didn't really have a trust fund to do that. So I don't know. I just kind of went through a whole political journey that was detached from like this elitism that I grew up with. And I kind of understand the attraction of the Democratic Party. Their whole thing is small, incremental, progressive change. And they believe it. They believe like we need to have like a government, and capitalism is the best allocation of wealth and capital that exists. And, we've made so much progress since where we came from, slavery and Native American genocide, and
which was not the Democratic Party that led that progress, but yeah.
But this illusion of incremental progress is kind of laid bare. Like, where's your incremental progress gotten? Roe v. Wade got overturned when Obama during his first term, when he had a supermajority in the legislature, could have
codified it.
Could have codified it. But then, how will the Democratic Party get your $5?
Right, but also the Democrats, there has been progress in this country. Like, I don't think that I would never say there hasn't been, but they're not responsible for it.
It's been the gnarly protesters
they hate.
Like, it's the activist. It's literally the activists that they say to move away from in this document that fucking led that shit. It was Black people like standing up for themselves without the help of
It
any
was,
political
yes, it
backing.
was trans people and queer people fighting for years and years and years. The same exact activists that they despise.
In the
are the
Vietnam
ones-
War, it was freaking
Yes.
anti-war veterans who went freaking Hamas on this motherfucker to end the fucking war.
Also, that's when it really started. It was during the Vietnam backlash.
Yeah.
Because that actually shifted U.S. policy, and both Democrats and Republicans were like, "Nah, okay, we need to punish the working class by
Right.
deindustrializing and shipping jobs over to other countries because fuck these workers, fuck them." Yeah. And so
and
like
when it comes to the incrementalism thing, like, yes, I understand why, or the lesser of two evil, why some people buy it. So like I said, I wasn't raised liberal. I was actually raised to believe that Democrats were really horrible. They were bad.
Which
They
was
were evil,
crazy when I read that on your bio. I was like, what? She grew up. So you and I had like that very similar childhood beginnings, except I just jumped the rainbow all the way over to the
yeah. But then one of the things that made me become more liberal and open to Democrats and Bernie was Bernie finally being, I was a non-voter. Like, I didn't vote. I didn't see the point of voting. I was like,
Yeah.
I grew up incredibly poor. So I was like, what has any politician ever done for somebody like me? So why would I give a fuck? Like, so I just was a non-voter. And then Bernie coming out and talking about Medicare for all really inspired me, because I don't know what I would have done without Medicaid when I was getting sober and I was homeless. Like, Medicaid was life-saving to me. Like, food stamps were life-saving to me. And so the Democrats, I became like, after Bernie lost, I became a reluctant, lesser of evil Democratic voter, even though I didn't love them, because I saw, okay, well, at least Democrats aren't trying to destroy Medicaid. At least they're not trying to destroy, healthcare. But they just use those things when they don't actually care to fight for them as a way to hold voters hostage.
It's a good cop bad. I've always called it a good cop bad cop routine. It's like the Republicans are like that gnarly white cop that comes in and it's like, you better tell us what we want to fucking know or beat the shit out of you. And then the good cop comes like, hey, don't ignore that guy. Listen. Just work with me.
Yeah.
Just work with me.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I'm on your side. I'm on your side. But look, I don't want this guy to beat the shit out of you, but I can't do anything.
Right. And I think I realized that too, like a while back when after Bernie got crushed in 2020, I was pretty disillusioned and realizing that, like, okay, and also because of the way they treated the squad and the Justice Democrats, the way they crushed them, I already felt like disillusioned and like I didn't like them because of what they did. And the fact that they make it pretty clear they don't want people like me in their coalition. They keep telling us to fuck off if we're on the left or if we're progressive. So at a certain point, I was like, okay, you keep telling me you hate me and you don't want people like me in your coalition. So I guess I should probably listen. But then again, like I said, when Trump was first running again, I was like, okay, but maybe I should do the lesser of two evil thing, just at least this one last time.
I get it.
Then I realized too, and this was like unfolding as I was watching the Gaza genocide. I was like, no, guys, no, they're never going to stop. It's always going to be the lesser of two evil routine. They're always going to move to the right and then go, okay, but just this one time, guys.
Yeah, just this one time. That's what it's always is like, listen, this is the most important election of our life. If you just give us this, we promise. But it seemed like this last election, they didn't even try. This last election, they literally they didn't even have a primary. It was just suddenly Kamala is the most popular woman alive, even though every article you've read in the past 4 years was talking about how Kamala fucked the minority communities in California when she was attorney general.
Which is another reason why I didn't believe anything they were saying. And it was clear to me that they were just doing that same bullshit again, because I was like, if it's really the most important, this was like prior to Joe Biden dropping out. I was like, if it really is the most important election of our lifetime, then why do we have a dead person running? Why did we have a primary? If it was really the most important election of our lifetime. Also, once Kamala Harris was the nominee and they refused to do anything about the Gaza genocide, I thought, you see the polling. If you really cared that much about it, and you really believe this was the most important election of our lifetime, why aren't you doing anything to assuage the anti-genocide voters? And then it's like becomes clearer and clearer. Like,
if you want Trump to win, say that.
Yes, and yes. And then they're like, basically they're like, well, vote for us or fuck you, and it's the most important election of our lifetime, but we're not going to do anything to earn your vote, because fundamentally what I believe, and I was already believing this toward the end of the election, I don't really think they care about losing, because they're a fascist party too, and they're fascist enablers, so they don't really care about losing as long as their grifter consultants get paid and they can be controlled opposition and email you, give us $5 and we'll fight for Roe v. Wade, give us $5 and we'll fight for whatever it is.
Because because they have stocks in all of the companies that will benefit from Trump's election. They all own stocks in that.
They don't care. They don't care. And so to me, I'm like, you know what? This isn't going to be the next election that we have. And Trump is eventually going to age out and all that. They're going to start talking about how Elon Musk is the biggest threat to our country. And now we need to give Democrats money because of Elon Musk. Like,
they're going to be like, guys, it's really getting bad now. It's really getting bad. Okay, I know before we didn't realize it was bad, but guys, Elon Musk is really bad. What are you going to do? Just let him walk all over you?
You guys thought Trump was bad? Wait till you meet Don Jr. Trump is no problem.
Oh, God. Hey, can I play the hey bro? Can I play the Little John interview? Do you remember that?
Sure.
Let's do it. I want to show this to Blakeley.
Hopefully your internet doesn't suck as it usually does.
Yeah! Ladies and gentlemen, we are here tonight to officially nominate Kamala Harris for president. Five, get loud, another round of shots. Everybody get your hands up. Now, say, we're not going back.
We're going back.
We're not going back.
We're going way back.
We're not going back.
We're going back to Jim Crow, baby.
We're not going back. VP Harris, coming to wall. VP Harris, giving the wall.
Lil Jon.
I see they got you performing at the DNC for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Do you believe in her as a candidate?
No.
Do you even like her?
Not really, no.
Do you even care?
No.
Is it for the money?
Yeah! All right, then.
You know Harris is supporting a genocide, right?
What?
She's supplying a genocide.
What?
Babies. Murder.
What?
She's helping kill kids.
Huh?
She's actively supporting a genocide of tens of thousands of fucking people.
What?
Bombing children.
What?
Blowing up babies.
What?
Mass murder.
What?
Giving Hitler bombs.
Huh?
Okay, she's brown.
Yeah!
Okay, so as DA in California, she fucked over minority communities. Like, absolutely fucked them over.
What?
Do any recreational drugs?
That depends, doctor. What do you define as drugs?
Medication.
No,
Cocaine?
absolutely not.
Marijuana?
Yeah! Yeah!
She would have locked you up.
What?
She wrongfully locked up minorities.
What?
She hates minorities.
Pardon?
She is a racist.
What?
Racist.
What?
But she's not Trump.
Okay!
Trump is old and white.
What?
All right, anyways. I had to play
Yeah.
that.
Honestly, I think unfortunately that's how they keep a lot of Black Democrats in the party. It's just threatening them, threatening their rights, threatening their that's how they keep all these Democrats loyal to the party or in the party that may be unhappy with it. That it's like, well, you know, those are you can either be in our party where we treat you like shit and we never give you any material benefit at all, or you can go over the party that basically wants to call you the N-word. Your choice. And that's one of the reasons why I'm like, man, Republicans really shoot themselves in the foot with their overt racism, because if they weren't so overtly racist, a lot of minority Democrats would probably leave the party.
And it's so disgusting how they treat the LGBTQ community. It's like they use them as a political football, and it's so abusive. It's like, do you want to get lynched by MAGA for being gay? Then vote for us or you will die. And it was so fucking abusive. And that's why I have grown such an endearment towards the LGBT community in the pro-Palestinian movement, because they give off the most fuck you energy when it comes to politics. They're like, okay, you're going to try to pink wash everything? Fuck you. They're just, and that's why I've just grown such an affinity towards them, like because they just give off this most anarchist attitude when it comes to being like gaslit by the Democratic Party and fear mongered.
That's how I feel about it when people will be like, "Oh, well, you're queer. How could you not vote for Kamala Harris? Like, they'd throw you off a roof if you were in Gaza." I'm like, "Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself."
Yeah.
Wait, there are roofs left in Gaza?
I know, right?
It's disgusting.
No,
So-
it really is. It really is. I can't like, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, well, we need to appeal more to the working class, and we're going to do that by trying to act more like the Republicans and kissing the rich's ass more."
But wait, this brings us to the final bullet point.
Wait, I thought we were done. What?
No, this goes straight to Blakeley's point. Instead of actually doing any sort of policy that would improve the material conditions for the working class, how do we get them on our side? By having a bought and paid for stooge. Point 10. Showcase working class voices and candidates. Recruit candidates who come from working class backgrounds and have relatable life experiences, not like us, because we're at a Potomac resort and we all have trust funds. Use messengers that working class voters trust. Business leaders, skilled laborers, and community figures. And we'll get them on the ticket and then we will corrupt them.
Yeah, I'm like, "Oh, so are you guys inviting me to run for office then? You dumb motherfuckers." Like, are you inviting me to run for office in your messaging? I am a white working class, genderqueer, non-college educated ex-Democrat. So you want me to
what they're looking for is someone like my father who listens to this podcast, who grew up like and worked through college on like an oil derrick in Texas, and then ended up as middle management at Morgan Stanley. That's what they're looking for. And
Right, and you know what's funny?
How big is that demographic though?
It's small. It's
That's
really
what I'm saying. So what are you trying to milk this cow
Also,
for? There's no milk
no, you're
left.
right. They're constant. No, you're right about that, Mark, because they're always trying to squeeze this like insanely small demographic of people, but also they're always trying to go after voters that aren't going to vote for them anyway. They're like, let's go for the moderate Republican woman who is a evangelical Christian and thinks that all the Democrats are baby killers. And let's try to get her to vote for us. And then they act shocked and chagrined when the right-wing women don't vote for them and go, "Huh, look at these right-wing women. They're always selling us out." It's like, they were never going to vote for you, you dumb motherfuckers. They're evangelicals who think that you guys are murderers. They were never going to. Why don't you try to? But again, they want to go after voters who were never going to fucking vote for them in the first place, or squeeze out that one small demographic that's like Greg's dad and 3 other people. Instead of
the evangelical soccer moms, they're gonna be trying 2 different sodas. They're gonna be like,
yes, instead of trying
not enough fascism in this one. I'm gonna go
instead
for this
of trying to actually get regular working class people, and they're so stupid and outdated and racist that they think working class people are all just guys who are white who work on oil rigs or who work in like a factory, not having any fucking understanding that the working class is multiracial, they're multilingual, they work at fucking nursing homes, they're black people who work at fast food places, white people who work at fast food places, white people who work at Dollar Tree, they're Latino people who work as home healthcare aides. These motherfuckers don't even know what working class means.
And they don't know that it's growing. They don't know that the lower class is growing and growing and growing, and it's going to outpace the managerial class by like 1,000-fold. So that by the time that they roll this out, it ain't going to mean shit because we're all going to be fucking poor. Anyways,
you know what? Yeah, but in the meantime,
Schumer said,
yeah, for every blue collar Democrat we lose, we'll gain 2 moderate Republicans.
Just keep going to those country clubs.
Yeah, it's like, can you even be working class if you don't have a country club membership? But their conception of working class is like white guy, jean jacket, putting in 12 hours on the ass crushing factory, listening to Bruce Springsteen.
Yes, yes, because in their conception of working class, they don't realize that a lot of Latino men who voted for Trump this time are actually just working class men. All you saw the Democrats do after this election, when the voter data came out that a lot of Latino men voted for Trump, they said, "Oh, it's because they're sexist. They just have machismo
It's
culture."
machismo culture.
Yeah. Instead of like actually talking to them, and many of them said, well, yeah, because of work, because of our work, because of inflation, because of prices. They're just working class people. But the Democrats are so stupid and so outdated and racist that they think that the Latinos only vote on immigration. That's all they vote on. And their sexism.
I live in a red county. That's
No
all.
habla inglés.
I live in a very, very red county, and it's mostly Hispanics, and every single one of them that I know voted for Trump. They are so out of touch.
Yeah, but did you ask them about whether or not they're okay with being called Latinx?
Well, Latinx, I was actually talking to Maggie about this because when she was working at NPR, NPR had to make the decision because it was made in some like New York University boardroom, like because she was working for Latino USA at the time, and NPR's like, do we have to change our name to Latinx USA, NPR Latinx USA, because all of our liberal viewership is going to expect us to not use the term Latino anymore. It's going to have to be Latin. Yeah, anyways, that's just apropos of that. It's just insane.
Right. And that's the kind of stuff they want to focus on, so they don't actually have to focus on, I don't know, passing a higher minimum wage, which is something that the liberals do. And then they turn around and they blame it on the left.
We are the problem, redistribution of wealth, actually taxing the rich. If we have to pay taxes, everybody should pay. I mean, we're really the problem. We lost Harris the election, even though the data does not support that at all. But it's our fault. And Jill Stein deserves a special place in hell.
Yeah. And she's winning awards now. Did you see Kamala Harris is winning awards for, I don't know what, but she's winning them. Did you guys see that?
But no, I didn't see that. Wait, for that great speech she did on don't be burdened by what has been for what will be.
I don't actually even know where she was. She won like a lifetime achievement award for like, I don't know what.
Sucky.
But they were celebrating her, and I'm like, yeah, it actually is such a perfect
here we go. Harris receives prestigious chairman's prize at NAACP Image Awards.
Oh,
for what?
I saw the video on this, her speech.
In her first major public appearance since leaving office. Harris did not reference.
You know what I love about that? What I love about that is that Democrats love to celebrate what losers they are. Like, let's have an award show and celebrate what fucking losers we are.
It's so true.
Democrats are the definition of victory and defeat.
Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize right after he did the most drone bombings in Afghanistan than Bush before him, right?
Yeah.
It was embarrassing. They even rolled him out in the carriage.
Yeah.
So I got a hard out soon, but are there any closing comments you want to make about the Democratic Party? Because I'm going to title this episode
some advice for current Democrats who are on the fence on what they should do.
Yes. Okay. So I'll start, and then Greg, you can close it out. My advice is, I think that the left needs to create their own party. I don't think that we should totally reject electoral politics. I know that a lot of people on the left think that electoral politics should be completely abandoned. I think as long as we have them, it should be a tool that we exercise as well as every other thing that we do. And I think that the left needs to leave the party. The party is only able to be empowered the way it is to continue to assault us because we take it. And we have Stockholm syndrome and keep going back to our abusive marriage with them. So my advice is for Democrats to actually, for liberal progressive people, whether you consider yourself a leftist or not, if you found that document as offensive as I did, it's time to stop empowering them and actually leave the party, and maybe us think about starting a different party, an actual left party, because the problem is with them and with staying in that party is we're going to move them to the left is not a thing. It's totally failed. It's been tried. And look at what they're doing now. They are moving significantly to the right. And this is only going to continue. So, yeah, Fuck the Democrats. Leave the party.
As much as that feels like acid on my ears as an anarchist, I concede to you. I have been open-minded about that with my friends who believe in electoral politics, and I affirm.
Sorry, one more thing. I know you got to go, but I have to add this too. The only reason why I say that is because I say we have to fight with the tools that we have. I believe in organizing and empowering all the grassroots organizing in anarchist groups. I believe in that totally. I just think we should fight with the tools that we have at the moment, because the right is always going to fight with those tools. The Democrats are going to continue to fight with those tools. And the alternative right now, and I'm open to hearing other perspectives, is that the Democrats want to empower the right, and the right want to destroy the country and put in its place tech feudalism. So I don't want that. I don't want tech feudalism running the country and turning it into a bunch of corporate fiefdoms run by greasy snakes like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and his mask that he wears around, calling it a face.
Yeah. In the future, would you prefer to live in the Amazon arcology or the Google arcology?
Yeah.
That's the question. You know, if you're gonna keep voting Democrat and not doing anything to save yourself, that's a question you're gonna have to ask yourself and figure out. You know.
Yeah, because the Democrats will defend it when that comes. They'll defend it.
Look, we don't like all these other arcologies, but this one is okay. That one's okay. There's only one bad arcology.
You're just gonna give them some freedom of choice, man.
Which dystopian do you want to live in? There's different flavors in science fiction.
Right.
Unfortunately, they're all manifesting right now.
No, in the most shitty way possible. And without all the cool shit. None of the cool shit. No flying cars.
If I was going to live in a cyberpunk dystopia, I want to be like ripping through like downtown Seoul in my motorcycle.
Anti-gravity motorcycle.
Yeah, anti-grav motorcycle trying
with
to evade
a laser
the
blaster shooting the fucking, fascist with it,
Yeah, but instead I'm stuck, with a fucking shitty car payment, and
the best you'll get for a flying car is the cyber truck.
Yeah, the swastika Uber wagon. All right, well, yeah, that is our show. I want to thank Blakeley so much for coming on for this epic, almost 2-hour rant against the Democratic Party, and why you should not be falling for their really out of touch third way comeback retreat that they just did in an elite Potomac resort.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. It was
definitely
great.
starstruck meeting you.
Oh, look at y'all. All right. Well, we will see you guys on the next one. I think tomorrow's episode, we're going to be doing it with I'm not really sure what it is. Maybe it won't even happen. So you'll just have to wait and see. So thank you so much for listening to Colonial Outcast podcast. We will be back shortly. And thank you all so much for listening. See you on the next one.